Hello and welcome to another episode of AVR Gaming. My name is Jacob and today we are back in my Tokyo-inspired Minecraft city build. This episode is going to be basically a world tour of where my city is up to at the beginning of 2021. So I don't even remember when I started building this city. I think it was around 2019, although I have actually been working on like a beta version of this city for a very, very long time, long time before this world existed. On my previous laptop, which it broke and I lost all my progress, and I started rebuilding this city. And recently I actually ended up launching a brand new super flat world and actually copying and pasting a lot of buildings from that over into this one and actually trying to really perfect this city. Here we are inside probably my most favorite build in this entire city, which is Tokyo Tower. Now I do have a video about Tokyo Tower on my channel, like a full showcase of it, and I recently actually got kind of an annoying comment on that video where somebody was like, you didn't even show us the interior of the building, and you just kept gabbling or yapping or something, or I forgot what they said exactly, just implying that I kept talking throughout the whole video. And yeah, I'm gonna continue doing that during this video, so if you're averse to that, then this isn't gonna be the video for you, unfortunately. But I will actually show you the interior of the building, and I'll also say the reason I didn't show the interior of the building in that video, I probably should have in retrospective, but I still don't really feel bad about it, is because this isn't accurate to Tokyo Tower at all. This is just like what I cobbled together just to make this like my city's map room. I really didn't think it had much value in that video because the video was really about this redstone block structure, this massive tower. That was the thing that the video was about, what I wanted to showcase, not that room in there, even though that room in there is probably my most frequented part of the city because I'm always updating that map. But speaking of, before we actually go exploring the city, I did want to go to the map and actually kind of talk you through what's been going on with my city. Within the last couple of weeks, this city, or probably the last week in general, which is just basically all of 2021 so far, because I'm filming this on like the 6th of the 1st, 2021. So within the last week, my city has been kind of going through a midlife crisis. Basically, I'm still in the process of copying and pasting over a lot of buildings from my previous world, which wasn't a super flat world. That's why I'm copying and pasting them over into this one using World Edit. Because I wanted to basically start the city from fresh, from a nice flat terrain where I can really have the headroom, because we all know in Minecraft you get the 256 block world height, and you can't build any taller than that. Just to give you an idea, that is the height of this tower. So I really wanted to be able to build big buildings, hence why I moved to this world. So I'm still moving stuff over. I still have that big Japanese castle and my stadium and stuff that I still have to copy over. But aside from that, I've built a lot of new buildings in this city, and a lot of roads in particular. That's taken the most time and effort, I think. And in the past week, I've actually been restructuring the roads quite a bit, because I got inspired by some other people's videos, and I really wanted to make it a bit more realistic, a bit better. So, as you can see, I have been copying and pasting stuff around, like existing buildings here, and moving them into other places. So you'll see a lot of duplicates. Like this block of buildings here, you can see I actually moved them over here, and I did that because I actually wanted some other stuff to be here. So I'm reorganizing everything at the moment, so a lot has been changed up in the last week. This is a shopping center. I actually moved it down here because this section I actually wanted to change the kind of building style and to put room for this big road here, which I kind of I had some ideas of what I could do there. Up in the top corner of the map, you'll see this is the National Dai building, which is something I've got a number of videos on my channel detailing my progress building it. But what I've done is I've copied and pasted a big chunk of it over into this world, and I started to expand all the the gardens around it, the big parking lot, and some other buildings around it, because what I'm gonna do at the end is I'm actually gonna flip from the middle here, this whole section. I'm actually gonna copy and paste it onto this section, but like a mirror image, and then you'll have the full building with all the surrounding buildings, and I'll tweak it a little bit to make it a little bit less homogeneous on either side. But that's what I've been working on with that building. So I'll show you that in a little bit. Up in this area we just have some of those buildings from my initial city that I've just plopped down randomly just to kind of fill out the area here. Here we've got our massive river. World Edit helped a lot with building this river. I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it by hand. And what we've got over here is the start of a bridge. So again, I'll show you all of this in like the actual builds in a second. I just really want to kind of give you guys an idea of what the map kind of looks like first. Over here we have a nuclear power plant that I have started building. It's not finished, but it is pretty big now, and I'm pretty proud of it because I actually went into a lot of detail trying to make it fairly accurate. So I spent a lot of time actually learning how nuclear power plants work, what features they need, how those features look, and how they're generally structured and all that sort of stuff. Like even here you can see this thing here, this is just an open roof. So this building, I haven't put the roof on yet, and you can see in here this orange thing is actually the turbine generator, because these orange domes here are the actual nuclear reactor buildings, and they actually send basically steam, heated water, which are heated by these nuclear reactions, into this turbine generator, which will actually spin magnets and they'll create electricity, which will go into these big transformer fields, which I'm going to build over here. We have these water cooling towers, which are, you know, that iconic kind of like nuclear power plant thing and all that sort of stuff. Gonna, you know, a bureaucrat building over here for all the offices and stuff, and a whole bunch of other things which I can get into when we kind of take a look at that a bit later. But yeah, I'm proud of that, but I think it's too close to the city center. One of the things which I have been having issues with is zoning. I need to change the way my city's structured because I never really structured it properly. And with a city build, you kind of want to have clear zones, like a big inner city zone with all the major skyscrapers. We can have the big office buildings, the big residential buildings, the massive high-rise buildings. And you kind of want to have them grouped roughly by similar style. And I was never really sure where exactly I was kind of putting it. I was just kind of trying to have the city grow organically, but it just kind of turned into a mess. So that's why I'm modeling this place, moving stuff around. So I think I'm going to have like the modern high-rise building section, the big center of the city up here, which is going to mean that I want to move the industrial section, which will include this power plant, further away, because it's kind of odd to have an industrial section right near the big high-rise buildings, right, you know, city center. So I'm probably going to move that further away and actually build an ocean where they can kind of sit near, because, you know, nuclear power plants, they're usually next to larger bodies of water. And I know I have a river here, but I've always kind of imagined there being an ocean on this side. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the city being roughly inspired by Tokyo. Not exactly by any means. I mean, this section here, which I built, which I actually copied and pasted over to here, is where I'm going to have my sort of secondary city center, but this is going to be like the old city. These are New York inspired sort of Art Deco style buildings. I couldn't resist. Like I was trying to make the city more Japanese feeling, more modern looking, kind of, you know, look a bit like Tokyo with those more sort of 70s style skyscraper buildings and more modern. However, I couldn't resist. I really do love the sort of New York Art Deco style buildings, and I had a lot of fun putting these together. So you'll see those in a moment. And I decided I actually really wanted to have a section where there's this big road on a diagonal that kind of faces this really sort of skinny building here, where we'll have these other sort of Art Deco buildings on the side, just so you can go down this road and have this big open area that you can see all the buildings from. So that's why I actually have been moving all this stuff around, because that just didn't fit next to it. So I have this big shopping center and these strip mall and kind of stuff that I put down there, which was originally here. And it still is. I'm just going to delete that over time. Here we have some traditional sort of Japanese housing and temple style buildings, pagodas, stuff like that. Here we have my onsen, which again you would have seen if you saw my earlier videos of my original city before I moved it all into this super flat world. I'm not sold 100% on having it here, but I think it will be somewhere nearby at least by the time it's done. And of course, I have worked a lot in making these roads feel a lot more realistic. They're a little bit chaotic because I was trying to stay away from doing very straight roads that kind of lock to the grid. I think I've kind of still done that because you can still see I have these big, long, straight main roads, and I kind of want them to kind of curve organically through the city and then have the little roads be a little bit more like a grid pattern, whereas I kind of have the opposite thing going on where the big main roads are really straight and the little roads are really curvy and weird, and that's kind of less realistic, although I still kind of want a good mix of the two. So yeah, a lot of work still to do, but let's actually go out and take a little fly through the city. Also, you may have noticed I don't have my little webcam up like I usually do in these videos. That's because I had a lot of issues filming this episode, actually. This is like this third time I'm trying to film this because originally I filmed like a good 25-minute video, and then my keyboard just broke. So I had to go buy a new one after filming that. I had to actually walk out and it started storming and I went to go to the store and it was this whole thing. Keyboard still didn't work when I bought the new one, but I kind of got it to work now by reasons. I don't really want to get into it. Anyway, this building right here is the newest building in the city. It's actually one that I've been meticulously working off of Google Earth images to try and replicate what it looks like in real life. And it's a building that is actually adjacent to Tokyo Tower in real life. So is this red building here and this kind of a pinkish beige building and that white building there. So these buildings are roughly based on the ones near Tokyo Tower in real life. Of course, some of the geography is a bit different. This section here is filled up with very different looking stuff, and all the other buildings aren't there at all. But this is the one I was just working on before I started filming this video, and I think it's coming together really nicely. I really like the look of this one. So it's your typical sort of Japanese mid-sized high-rise building or mid-rise building, whatever they're called. With lots of little windows and balconies and those stairs. A lot of these Japanese or Tokyo sort of buildings have these sort of stairways around the sides and often have little balconies all running across them. So as you can see, you got some stairs like that going on this building here as well. So that's kind of a common thing you see in these sort of fairly smaller, often residential buildings. I think this might be like a school, or that's like a big sports center or something. But anyway, this block of buildings you would have seen in my previous videos. In particular, I'm really proud of how dense I got this section of city to be. I really want to get everything as dense as this because my city at the moment is feeling really unfinished. It's very empty. There's lots of empty space, as you can see. But I'm hoping to get everything to be as dense as this. Now, my favorite section of this section here, which again I have showcased many a time, but I'm going to show it to you guys again anyway, just because in case this is your first exposure to my city, I kind of just want to quickly show you. Here we got the theater. I really like the way this turned out. It's kind of really fancy looking. And here we got the main hall. There's a lot more to this theater than just this main hall, but this is kind of the most impressive part of it. There's actually another little section up on that side where you actually can see another little stage and stuff like that with a drum set up and stuff like that. Speaking of drum sets, here we've got Rockstar Music Emporium. I'm really actually proud of this sign here. I know it's not in Japanese, but I couldn't resist just this logo with like the big guitar kind of lying on its side. Hopefully you can kind of get that vibe from it and the star. Yeah, this is just a music store. Got some drum kits here, so if you would have seen, I did a tutorial on how to do these slightly more fancy looking drum kit designs in Minecraft compared to your typical ones that you might have seen back in the day. They look a little bit odd, but for Minecraft I think they're fairly convincing. Of course, there's glass in the way, so it's a bit hard to make out, but there you go. So yeah, Rockstar Music Emporium. Got some guitars on the back wall and stuff like that as well. I really like it because I'm, into my music. I play bass and guitar and record and stuff like that. There we got some older buildings as well that I actually copied and pasted into this world. This is just a copying and pasting mistake that I'm going to delete this part of a building here because I should got it copied over somewhere over there. Doesn't really matter. Here we got Cello Tower. This is one of my favorite skyscrapers that I made initially in my previous world. It kind of looks a bit less impressive now compared to some of my newer buildings, but I still like it. I think it's pretty cool. As you can see, Cello Tower. So this is more in that 1970s, very boxy skyscraper style of building. And we got some like McDonald's and some other advertising and stuff below it. And of course Pikachu. You got to have Pikachu. Now over here we have the more Art Deco New York older style of buildings. So these would be like at the turn of the century, like in 1920s style buildings over here. And we got some really low-rise buildings around here, and I think it's a good mix of them. I just had a lot of fun building these because I initially wasn't going to, but I see a lot of other people building in this style in their Minecraft cities in their YouTube videos, and I just couldn't resist. I really wanted to add these sections to my city, so I'm gonna have like a section of the city that kind of is built in this style. And I played around a lot with mixing up blocks, make stuff look a lot more rustic and rough, and used like just mixing in these stone pavers along these smooth stone ones here to make it look more rough. This here is actually a modern building. It's not those in that old style, but I just left it there anyway because it was kind of already placed down there. This is more of like a suburban sort of townhouse or something, but it fits well enough with these sort of buildings anyway, because this is very sort of suburban high-rise buildings, so I guess this one fit well enough. And my favorite part of these builds is actually these grungy sections, these back alleys, because I spent a lot of time mixing up different blocks, all these cobblestone, different grey blocks to add texture to the ground. I love putting in these fire escapes and just messing with blocks, like adding these stripped wood blocks to kind of look like the paint has fallen off of these buildings, and we got bricks showing through, and just making it look really like it's an old building, like it's damaged. And I found that it just really looks so much better and is more fun to explore than the more sort of pristine buildings that I was building beforehand. So I'm definitely going to experiment more with doing that stuff. So I'm just going to do a little view of this thing. This building in particular, for whatever reason, I'm really happy with the way the vents and all these sort of HVAC units on the top of the building turned out. Because these I often struggle with, because buildings, like, it's hard to not feel like you're going overboard with them, but in reality, a lot of these big buildings have very complicated HVAC systems on the top of them and stuff like that. And this one in particular, I just love the way it turned out. I know it's a strange detail to like, but but just when you've actually been doing a lot of this building stuff, these sort of details you start to gravitate towards for whatever reason, more so than the pristine, fancy fronts of the buildings, like this thing. Which, these are all my design. I kind of built them from my head, basically, using some, just glancing at, like, New York cityscapes and stuff like that for ideas, but really it was just kind of, a lot of it came from just my mind. And I had a lot of fun with adding little details like these little roofs here, just to add a bit of color, and I think they turned out really great. And as you can see here, I'm just mixing in these sort of textures along with these quartz, adding the diorite and adding the granite in the bricks, and cobblestone along with the polished, not polished, just anesthite and stuff like that, and it adds a lot of texture. And even if you don't notice it from a distance, and you probably shouldn't, is the idea. I've tried to keep the colors fairly consistent, but it should look just grungy enough that you feel like the building has a bit of character, but it shouldn't look obnoxious. And I think it actually got there. Actually, I forgot to say, when I was talking about why my camera's not on, the reason is because I ended up having to plug in the little USB wireless transmitter for my new keyboard. I had to put it in a slot which I usually use for my USB connection for my webcam. That's why my camera's not working, because otherwise I couldn't get the keyboard to work. It's a pain, I need to fix it, but for now, I think you guys can live without seeing my face in one video. So yeah, these section of buildings, I decided to move them over there, because originally here there was like a diagonal road, and I really liked the look of it. So I ended up copying and pasting it over there, because I wanted the road to actually be able to continue through this way. But these buildings here, I didn't really want to demolish. And I really wanted this empty corridor of space, so that I could actually fill it up with other buildings and have a really cool view of like this nice central road that runs through this little city center. So because of that, I've had to move this, because this road is going to run through this big shopping center, so I ended up moving that there. And yeah, I've just basically been shifting around stuff, fixing up the road designs and stuff like that this whole time. It's been a whole process, but this is where we got it to. So the idea is we have this big main road here. This stuff is not going to be here, nor is that. We're going to change that with some other buildings that look fairly similar, I expect. And basically what I want to have is this big wide road here, that at the end of it you have this nice skinny building that kind of veers off with roads on either side of it, and all like these cool Art Deco style buildings on either side of the road, and you can just go down them here and have this really cool view of all the building facades and all of that, with this kind of shaped road. And so I really like that idea, and that's why I had to shift around big chunks of the city to get that to work. So actually moving on to the shopping center, I would show you this one, except for it's basically identical to this one, so just assume that it's identical to that one, except for I've extended the car parks on the back of the shopping center over here for quite some distance. I copied and pasted them, and I'm gonna again tweak them to make them feel less homogeneous and stuff like that. But we'll go into this one because some of the details didn't copy and paste over. Whenever you use item frames, stuff like that doesn't copy and paste over, so I have to redo that. So that's why I'm going to show you this version. It's still a work in progress, but if you've only seen my previous world, you would have noticed that this one is much larger than the shopping center I had in my previous world. It's actually the same building, this building here, but I copied and pasted it over twice, and then I built this section in between it, so that you have this big, almost open section between the main closed-off shopping center sections, just for, like, you know, cafes and restaurants, and just basically to make it feel more grand in the middle here. I think it scales a bit better. So we got this little fountain area in the middle here. And then over here, we start to see some shops. Now, most of this shopping center is actually empty. I still need to fill it all up with shops. It's going to be a huge ordeal because I struggle to find ideas to make shops feel unique and look cool, and it just takes a lot of time because it's a lot of fiddly work doing like little details like this and making them all feel unique, and like you're not just doing the same thing over and over again. Although in reality, like 90% of shops are just clothing stores like this one here. So that might not even be that big an issue, but I feel like I still want to have like unique items in each store if I can, and I want it to feel realistic, and it's a little bit tricky because like how many clothing stores can you just fill up a giant shopping center with without it starting to feel really samey? Anyway, this is my favorite store out of the ones I've actually built. So this is the sushi place. So the reason I wanted to show you this version of the shopping center is because we actually have these plates with bits of sushi on them, and they're actually just made of player heads. So you can actually get player heads imported into the game with command blocks without any mods, by the way. So this is mod free, aside from You know, me using World Edit just to copy and paste stuff, things in the game. Which, I mean, you could do with commands. It's just easier with World Edit, I guess. So yeah, I really love this effect where the player heads are normally this big, but then they become really small when you put them in item frames, and it just looks perfect for like sushi on plates. And there's websites where you can find player names for all the different designs of player heads. So here we even have like bits of fish head, and not bits of fish. Well, these are fish heads, but bits of like fish cut up. So we've got the head, the middle section, and then the tail, and then they just look like cool raw fish chunks, and they just fit perfectly in the sushi restaurant. So I thought this was perfect for a Tokyo inspired city build. Just have a sushi restaurant. Of course, it's not new. I've shown it off in older videos, but I just love that. It's one of my favorite parts of my city. So over here, again, we have the same clothing store because I copied and pasted it over. But here we have another store where we have dead coral. I don't know what this would actually be. You've got cakes and dead coral. You have to use your imagination. Maybe this is all pottery. Like these could be plates, these could be loads of cups or mugs because they have that like weird shape. You gotta use your imagination with Minecraft. It's just something you have to do because, you know, you're working with square meter blocks most of the time, so you can't really detail things super duper detailed, especially not make it feel samey. So here we have a toilet, and I use the method where you mirror it on the other side to actually make the mirror in the toilet look like it's an actual mirror. So you can either imagine that the glass here or the ice is see-through, or you can pretend that it's actually reflecting this room, and either way it looks convincing. It is actually just rebuilt on the other side, obviously, but I do like the effect. It's a cool way of replicating that. Up here we have a jewelry store. So what this is meant to represent is like the glass, which is showing all these like bits of jewelry on like red velvet, even though it just looks like netherrack with gold in it, but that's what that's meant to be. And in here we have all these like gold bits and armor and stuff like that, just to kind of basically be a jewelry store. And I think that's... oh no, we have one more store that I've actually built here, and this is just generic knickknacks. I really didn't have a theme for this store, as you can see, but it's something. These things are a pain to fill up, guys. Of course, got a little busway here, and I think you guys have seen these bits in my previous videos, but I like to show them off. Again, we've got a gas station here. It's very important to put stuff like this around your cities, just to make it feel, more realistic, because people need fuel for their cars and stuff like that. And I'm going to quickly sleep just to make it daytime again. Here we have my KFC design. I've actually been meaning to do a tutorial on how to build this KFC sign for a while now. I never got around to it. I might even do a tutorial on how to build the whole KFC if you guys are interested. So let me know. I mean, the clever ones of you would be able to just take a screenshot of this video and like work it out, but I know a lot of you guys do enjoy tutorials, and I really haven't done many of them, so I do want to do that eventually. But yeah, you've seen this KFC before if you've seen my videos. Here we got Domino's Pizza. I really like the way this turned out. So I got this little strip mall area, which I like the way it kind of feels like an appropriate thing to have next to this shopping center. Because here in Australia, we kind of often have that, where we have the big shopping center, the car parks, and across the street you'll have a little strip mall. It just kind of feels right. And over here, again, yeah, Domino's, just to go inside it. Your basic Domino's. You got all the ingredients and stuff that they have in here. Here's where they put the pizzas in like the hot box when they're waiting for you to come pick them up. Got generic like oven looking things that they put together here. Player heads of like pizza boxes stacked up, and the ovens here with like stacks of pizza and stuff like that. And I think it turned out really nice, especially with these custom banners and stuff like that, and the sign up here, and the the logo and everything. So Domino's. Most Minecraft cities have McDonald's. A lot of them have KFCs, but I've seen less of them have Domino's. I know some do, but I still, wanted to make it. So again, this whole section I am putting it over there. So you can see it's basically exactly the same thing, just down a couple of blocks over there. And what I'm thinking is I'm thinking of putting more basic houses around that area. So not high-rise buildings, but like suburbia somewhere over there, which is going to be a lot of work because designing a lot of little houses is actually a lot more time-consuming, I find, than actually building single skyscrapers. Because it's easy to fill out a block of land with a lot of skyscrapers, but building a lot of houses, which require a lot of detailing, is a lot more work, actually. So this is another new building here. Think of it as like a repurposed industrial building, which would have like cafes or like a big pub or something with like people just kind of enjoying time out on this balcony here. It's not very Japanese looking. Again, this is actually more inspired by places which I've seen sort of locally here in Brisbane. It's a bit bigger than a lot of those places, but they do have these like veranda style balconies like this where there's a lot of pubs like that. And it's not very Japanese either, even though like this section already is more American New York's style in design. This building here is definitely not very Japanese because they actually aren't really known for dining outside of the buildings. A lot of like the pubs and the cafes and restaurants in Japan, people dine inside. However, I still like to add details like tables and stuff outside, which is a bit more al fresco. Just because even though it's less accurate to some places like Japan, it still feels like it does liven up the Minecraft world, which is more important to me than it being realistic or authentic, I find. So over here we have again some more buildings which I copied and pasted over from my previous world, like this section here. It's like a nice little conglomerate of buildings here. I think even this building here with these window shapes was actually inspired by San Francisco style buildings. Not super accurate to those either, but that's like where I got inspiration from, because I played a lot of video games like Destroy All Humans 2 and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where they did have a lot of San Francisco style buildings with these sort of windows. So that's where that comes from. This again, new building here. We've got like a section where there's going to be a big billboard here. I'm actually going to show you guys, I have a lot of, I actually want to do a whole video on this actually. I have a lot of billboard designs and advertisements where I just spent like a couple of days just building them and just having them float around. I'll show you those later. You can see some of them over there, but I actually have the same batch of those with more of them over there, copied and pasted again for reasons which I don't even remember why, to be honest. But yeah, you can see this nice little building complex here. Very empty, this section here, but I do really like the way these roads came together because they feel fairly finished. So you can see very sparsely filled with buildings at the moment, but I'm hoping to get it really dense by the time I finish. I'm not super worried about it, like taking a long time. I'm just taking my time with this city, so I don't really mind all this empty space. But I'm really excited again to see it filled up, because it does look a lot cooler when you have a big density of buildings all together. So this is the start of my first big bridge in this city. I think it's going together quite nicely. Again, I'm trying to go off-grid as much as I can when I'm building stuff like this, just so it feels less Minecraft-y, very blocky. Did try and give it a nice curve and for it to go diagonally here. And yeah, it's slowly coming together. I'm not really sure exactly how I'm going to build it. It's definitely way too small to be like a suspension bridge or something like that, so it's just going to probably be a nice concrete bridge. Maybe I'll put a support down the inside of it. Maybe I won't. It's still probably a bit small for that. But I do want to kind of put more bridges in later on, and that's why I have the big river. Also inspired by where I live, because I live in Brisbane, Australia, and we have a great big wide river that kind of defines our city. We have lots of bridges like this that go over it as well. So a lot of local inspiration, even though it is kind of inspired by Japan. This isn't inspired by anything local. I don't think we really have any nuclear power stations anywhere near where I live. In Japan, they do have quite a number of them. And this is more inspired by, like, again, it's a combination of, like, a realistic power station, but it's also inspired by The Simpsons, obviously. Hence, like, we've got the double fence going around here, like a security barrier. The double fence in the road going down the middle. We've got our car parks here. Some, utility buildings here. We got this is a detail I really like. The having the villager here in the gate to actually get in. Yeah, he knows what I'm saying. We got our nice little office building over here. I think it turned out pretty cool with, like, the blue and the stained glass and stuff like that. And obviously the big cooling towers, which I used Weld Edit to build. I had to build them one layer at a time, slowly changing the exact radius of the circle that I wanted. And I think they came out a little bit too small and thin, because I think these are like 90 meters tall, but in reality, some of these chimneys, these cooling towers, they can be up to like 200 meters tall, so way over, like, just over twice this height. And I feel they're also a bit slim, because they could be a bit wider. But I don't really know if I'll ever feel like redoing them, and they do look pretty epic as is. And actually made them pretty accurate, down to the fact that they do have the water in them, they have these supports here, and they have all this stuff in here. So the way these work is basically there's a matrix of pipes which suck up water from, or push water from the heat, the hot water used in the turbines. In order to cool it, they pump it into here, which actually goes into a matrix of these pipes, which, let me just fix that, which then sprays it into these, which are like just these kind of fins which kind of guide the water down and spreads it out. And then the water's spread out, and as it falls, it cools. And the reason it cools is because there's openings in the bottom of these towers which allow cold air to flow in. So these towers, by pouring hot water in, the steam rises out from the chimney at the top, which sucks up cold air by like a suction motion, because just by the fact there's so much air actually rising out of them through these holes, which actually ends up cooling the water, which actually means that most of the steam doesn't even end up leaving as steam. And there's some other like little wackies up here, this section, which actually is meant to kind of stop more of the steam actually flowing out of it. So I think they actually have a really good percentage of the water. They only lose like, I think it's between 5 to 15% of the water, and the rest is actually cooled and it goes back into the system, because a nuclear power plant, it's extremely important to keep the reactor cooled appropriately. These I just put in for aesthetics, these big tanks, but I have seen them on like Google Earth above a lot of nuclear power plants. I think these just hold the either hot water or the cooled water before or after it's used, or something like that, after it goes to the cooling towers. Not all nuclear power plants have cooling towers. Some just get cold water directly from a river or the ocean. It depends, but this is all just stuff that I've tried to learn. And since it's getting nighttime, it's actually kind of appropriate that we can go inside. So it's not fully furnished, but I did at least build the reactor. So as you can see here, I built a really cartoonish big vault door for the nuclear reactor. And there's two of these. Like, again, I copied and pasted it over, so there's two of these reactors in this nuclear power plant. Here it is. This big cylinder holds the actual nuclear reactor. So in here you'd have the uranium rods and like the cooling liquids and stuff like that. And what they basically do is they pipe hot water, which is heated by the reactor, into this, which is a heat exchange, which actually kind of I'm sorry I'm getting into nuclear physics in a Minecraft video about showing off my city, but it was really fascinating. So I'm just going to go up into a slightly cooler section of this, the inside of this reactor. So these big green cylinders is where like they exchange the heat. Wait, how do I explain it? You know what? I'm not going to get into it. I might. I'm not going to teach you guys nuclear reactor works in this video. It's too much. Like, I could do it, but I just realized, like, what the hell am I doing? But yeah, actually, I should still show you, though. Under this water, because they use water because it actually helps not let radiation pass through it after a couple of meters of water. But yeah, in here is where the actual nuclear reactor is, and it's inside this very thick, concrete, domed building in case something goes wrong. This section here opens up when they need to remove the used fuel rods and to bring in new ones that actually have a tank of water that they kind of pass it through so it never has to leave the cooling. So that's why I put that there. What I'm trying to get at is I put actual thought into the construction of this nuclear reactor. And of course I added some, cool details like these signs here. And the big vault doors and stuff like that. Close that up. And if we go around here, I don't have a proper entrance into it, but if we go around here... Actually, I do have a proper entrance into it. That side doesn't, though. But if we go around this side, which, again, this place isn't finished at all. There's still a lot to be done. But if we go around here, we have some more piping and stuff. All this is semi-functional piping. There's kind of a thought behind why it's there, because that's where the hot steam would go to get to the turbines. But if we go in here, this is the control center for the nuclear reactor. It's really sort of 1950s kind of cartoonish looking, but I think it turned out really cool. Like, you always have these round things, and I think these blocks, the what are they called? Command blocks. I think they work beautifully in this setting, because when you look at nuclear reactor control thingamabobbers, I forgot what they're called. Just control rooms. Jeez, I forgot the word rooms. What a pleb. But they always have like these bleeping little lights on the walls. They have little dials, so these things work brilliantly for that. Lots of buttons. Here we have like computers, so these would be like big storage computers for doing God knows what, but pressure gauges and stuff like that. And yeah, these cool doors here, which give that real nice effect. I've even tried to add piping up on the ceilings to make it feel industrial, like a real nuclear power plant. This thing here I'm actually really proud of as well, because I did model it off actual turbine generators which generate electricity. Like, I tried to make it really close to photos that I've seen online. And basically how this works is, pumped into here you'd have the really hot under pressure steam, which is heated by the nuclear fission from the power plant there, and that turns these generators, and these generators turn magnets, and those magnets fly around magnetic or just big coils of wire, and that creates electricity. And basically that's how a nuclear power plant works. And that electricity is of course piped into these big transformers, which kind of change the current to basically function in the grid, and it's basically sent out from here. I put a chimney in here because I saw a lot of nuclear power plants in Japan actually have these sort of chimneys in them as well. I don't really know what it does, but I just added it for aesthetics. And yeah, that's my nuclear power plant. It's not finished, but I put some thought and effort into it at the very least, and I like the way it turned out. And of course I just put generic piping around it as well, just to make it look even more cool and legit, because you gotta have that. And also you have these this little ladder section which you can actually get to the top of these cooling towers and stuff like that. If you want to see some cool videos on YouTube, I recommend just googling interior of nuclear power plant cooling towers or something like that, or just use the keyword cooling towers interior, and you'll see they just look really awesome. And it's raining, so we're gonna have some acid rain like that scene in The Simpsons where Homer's like bowling shirt melted. I'm gonna sleep again. So again, we're back at the hub of the map, my Tokyo Tower building. I'm just gonna quickly do a nice little bit of a look at it, just in case you haven't seen my video about this building. I worked really hard to try and get this as accurate as possible to the real building, down to a lot of the area around it and some of the surrounding buildings. Not slavishly, of course. A lot of the surrounding area I have modified just to suit the city a little bit more, but especially the building and the car park and stuff like that, I've gotten fairly close. So yeah, this is my Tokyo Tower build. This is an iconic building that you would have seen in a lot of kaiju movies or the giant monster movies, Japanese movies, where this building and ones that look really similar to it have been destroyed numerous times. I'm a huge fan of those, if you guys didn't already know that. That's why it's the main building in my city here. And why I'm kind of building a Tokyo-inspired city in the first place. So this is one of my favorite buildings. Again, I don't know if I'm going to keep it here, because I kind of don't like that the land around it is really angled, but this building is kind of built on the grid, so it's kind of built, you know, square to the angles of Minecraft, whereas buildings like this are kind of built on a diagonal. I hope you know what I mean by that. Kind of like the roads on a diagonal, whereas this building is straight, with how Minecraft is its blocks oriented. So I'll probably end up moving this somewhere else. Although, yeah, I did kind of like the way it was starting to be integrated into this area, because I did copy and paste this from my other non-super flat world. As you can see, there's a chunk of mountain there. I really wanted to keep that. I think this bit of mountain and this fancy garden isn't really appropriate in this section of the city, I guess. Even though Tokyo Tower actually does have some similar type buildings next to it, there's a temple actually adjacent to it, which I'm going to be building a kind of a replica of over here on this small patch of land. Granted, it could have a bigger patch of land, but I really don't want to even move this section over here anymore, because I think it's sitting quite well in the city. But yeah, this is the Japanese onsen, which is a bathhouse. I've probably showed it in videos beforehand, but I really love this building. It is my own design, but it's inspired by some other YouTubers who do build in a Japanese style. I think they are Japanese YouTubers who do Minecraft in a Japanese style, which this building here is also super close to some of their buildings. So I've taken a lot of inspiration from them. I think they're called Sevens Minecraft or something like that. I might even have it written down. I sometimes write down if I got inspiration or something from a YouTuber on some of these, what are they called? Not item frames, signs. In some of my builds, I date them and I add, if they're not my original building, I'll write it down on the sign. But yeah, I'm really proud of this bathhouse, this onsen. So you can actually see the interior of like some of the baths, showers, all that cool stuff like that. There's a lot to explore here, and this map will eventually be available for download on like Planet Minecraft or something like that. I'll probably do that in the near future. If you guys are interested, do let me know. Currently I don't have it yet, just because I wanted to be a little bit closer to finish before I do that, but eventually it'll get there. So here we have a little highway interchange. I'm not super happy with it, but I think considering I didn't use a lot of mods or anything to kind of get it perfect or anything like that, I think it turned out pretty nice. I'm not overly sure about the area that it's in either, but I think it's okay. This building here is actually a copy of a building that we've got down there. I just changed it up a little bit. I tried messing around with Build Edit, changing the block type. So instead of sandstone, it's like the red sandstone, which looks pretty cool. I think I'll still have to change it up a lot more in the future just to get it, you know, to look less like that other building. But I thought it was a cool enough building design that it would be cool to base another building off of it. Here we've got our more Japanese classic style architecture, a more sort of old style building, or suburban style houses. I don't really know what I'm going to do about building suburban houses, because I know a lot of them are going to have to be in this more classic Japanese style, but it's a hard style to build in, and I do also want to kind of put in more modern suburban housing, so I guess we'll have a mix eventually. But this is just a combination of ones I built. And again, some of these are my own design, like these ones here. But these two actually are, again, I think it's Sevens Minecraft is the... So I'm trying to get rid of that. is the dude who originally designed these, so not everything is my design, but most of the stuff is, especially the big stuff. Same with this stuff here. These are little ramen stores, so these aren't my design. These are by another YouTuber. I just follow their tutorial on both the little ramen store and this little ramen little cart. And I think it turned out really nice. Ramen cart, original design by the Black Belt Panda. So yeah, they're another YouTuber which had a cool little design, because occasionally I'll go in there for ideas. And this one's probably by, do I have it? Yeah, I have it written down. Japanese bar, original design by Sevens Minecraft, just like I said. So they are really good when it comes to this sort of style. But once you look at a few of their videos, you get a good sense of the techniques, and from there you can do your own stuff. So this one's my design, I think. That big one there, I actually kind of tried cobbling together a few of their, one of the other built that building a couple of times to try and make it a bit wider and kind of make this Frankenstein design of a house. I think it looks okay. It's a little bit less Japanese looking than I would have liked, I guess, but it works. This one isn't my design as well. Again, I think it's Seven's Minecraft. Same with this one. So a lot of these ones aren't my design, but those two are over here, and I think they turned out pretty nice. With this nice little garden back here. I think one of them's a butcher's kind of a place, and the other is just some other random building. Let's come over here. Yeah, we got a lot of roast chickens out the front here, so it is like a butcher's type place, and this one's just another generic building, but I think they turned out really nice, especially with the garden around them. And I think, oh yeah, I'll show you all the signs now, all the advertising and stuff like that. Again, this little temple shrine thing isn't my design, but I saw a video on it and it just looked too cool to resist learning how to build it, so I did. I did add a bunch of this mossy cobblestone and stuff to make it look more rustic, though. That is something I did. So yeah. Up here, we have the train track line, which I started to build. I'm not overly happy about... I wanted to curve more nicely than it currently is, but yeah, eventually we're going to have big train track lines for the city, because Tokyo has massive railway systems. And I'm going to show you the actual train over there in a second, but this is it. This is all my signs and advertising and stuff like that that I've designed for this city. I'm going to need a lot more, but I spent a long time trying to get these to all look cool. So I used a lot of real-world reference images, especially for stuff like the Coca-Cola ones. This one here, the super dry... I think it's Asahi beer or something like that, Japanese. This was actually, I took this from looking at streets in Japan. This one here as well as this one here, whatever it is. Some of these green ones with the Japanese writing there as well. This one here as well. Most of these, as you can tell, these have all been taken from actually looking at real Japanese signs. And it's so difficult because you have to try and make the lettering look legit, but it's really difficult too because you're really limited with Minecraft. So a lot of these look somewhat like they do in the picture, but I just kind of had to fluke it to kind of get it to look somewhat like writing, and it's really just the only thing you can do. But some of these you can actually read if you read Japanese, like these ones here are pretty clear, but they're really massive signs. So the hardest part was trying to get these to be a decent size. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to sleep again because it keeps getting nighttime. And a lot of these other things, I actually just experimented with my own pixel art. This Coca-Cola sign I'm really proud of because I spent a long time fiddling around getting these pixels to look really legit. So from a distance, it actually looks like a Coca-Cola bottle. The writing you can actually read. And there's a smaller version of it because, again, these are really massive signs. Now these things here, I just looked at a lot of pixel art. I did change it up a little bit, but some of these admittedly I stole from just Google Images, like this one here and this one here. But you need faces, I think, in like big advertising. If you look at lots of advertising in modern cities, like the big massive neon signs, they have a lot of human faces. That's a thing that comes up a lot. Over there we have the Toho logo, which is the company that makes Godzilla movies. So I wanted to do their logo. It turned out, again, really massive because I wanted to get it accurate. Unfortunately, it just got to go that way. But I spent a long time fiddling around with getting a nice texture in it as well, which actually does add a lot of depth to it there. Here you've got, this says Shin Godzilla, which is one of my favorite Godzilla movies. So this says Godzilla, and this is Shin. Just to let you guys know. Here are more generic signs. I have no idea what they say. I just looked at photos and tried to copy them. Big Sega logo. I did a few variants. Down here we have a lot of banners, which I'll show you in a second, which I designed with lots of cool designs. These ones I'm really proud of because, again, this whole section of, I think, this blue one, this green one, this yellow-gray one, and this red one are actually just legit how they were on a building next to each other in this exact pattern, so I might recreate that perfectly one day. Got our Pepsi logo down here. That was also actually next to this one, but on that angle, so I put that there as well. The BVD logo, whatever it is. These three here, I actually took from a section of Godzilla movie. There's a Godzilla movie called Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, where the monster King Ghidorah, he's like a giant gold three-headed dragon, is actually breaking through some buildings, and there's a cool scene with this big Nikon sign and these exact logos around him on billboards, and I tried to recreate them as close as I can from that screenshot. So these are like a early 90s kind of big billboards that they had, at least in the movies in Japan. So I tried to recreate those. Of course, we got our Sony logo there. And that's meant to be like a woman in like, I don't know, like a model or something like that. Really pixelated. As you can see, the black is like her bra and her undergarment, and there's just her hair there. Done in these like natural sort of skin tones, as a lot of like makeup advertising is. So from a distance, that's meant to look like a woman in underwear. This is ramen, so there's this. So these are going to be like ramen logos. And down here we have just lots of useful banners. The reason I just made these and placed them here is because anytime I need them, I can just press the little wheel button on my mouse, and that's how you get blocks in creative. I think most of you probably know that, but that's how you can get existing blocks, and then I can just use these around the city. So these are meant to look like Japanese writing, like calligraphy, and you can use these in restaurants and for decorating lots of stuff and just posters around the place. This is like meant to be Mount Fuji. Here you got like food bowls and stuff like that. Lots of stuff that you can just use around your city for whatever you want, basically. This one's really good as like a mirror or a window or something like that as well. So lots of options. And this brand here is actually a really common brand in Japan. I have tried quite hard with these signs to make them look really realistic, because it's really difficult, I find, with a lot of city builds, and I've seen a lot of other people's cities, to get these posters to look really convincing. They always just use the same logos, like you see the Nike logo a lot, McDonald's, stuff like that. And of course I'm using those as well in my city. Well, not the Nike one as of yet, but I really wanted it to feel Japanese, and it's really easy for me to just use English lettering all over the city, but having these logos, at least a good portion of them, be in Japanese helps so much to really give that look. Now, I haven't actually installed most of these anywhere in the city yet, but I will in good time when I actually build that like really big section of the city with the modern high-rise buildings. We've got a little train. Originally this was in a subway station in my previous world. I don't really have enough depth in the ground at the moment to actually build a subway station, so I'm building it above ground. And again, that's inspired by how it actually is in Japan. And as you can see, it looks really cool on this track, and we're going to be building a lot more of these. A lot of them, lots of different colors. Definitely going to be a lot longer and lots more track. Now let's move straight up this way. We've got this really big-ass road, which the reason it's so wide is because I tried to make it accurate, again, going on Google Images, Google Earth, to try and replicate all the detailing in the road and the correct width of it. And the thing is, a lot of people build really spectacular Minecraft cities, but they're just notorious for using like really tiny roads. When in reality, when you go on like Google Earth and look at real roads, they can be so wide that you like wouldn't even suspect it. And then like, you know, you start building a city, you build like a little tiny road, and you're like, yeah, that'll do. But then you look at like realistic roads, like this road here. This is based off a real life how wide a road is. Where even the ones that I'm just using typically, these are like my general width. These are quite wide for how wide most people build their Minecraft roads. Because I build my lanes 5 wide, plus I have the color in between. And sometimes I even make them a little wider at the edges so there's room for parking. But like, yeah, if you see these roadways here, these are based on real roads. They can be really freaking wide, and you I see some people building huge cities, but then they have roads which are like 2 lanes wide, and the lanes are like 3 blocks wide on the inside anyway. And so they're tiny, and it just looks wrong. I don't know. It's something I've noticed in a lot of even really fantastic cities. They have tiny roads, whereas in reality, if you want to make your city realistic, overestimate how big you're going to need your road. Because think about it, most of the time you're going to have like on like a sort of medium-sized main road, you're going to have 2-way traffic, maybe 2 lanes of it going left and 2 lanes of it going right, and then you're going to need another section of road for cars to park on the side of the road. And sometimes you have roads like these with just 3 lanes plus this like dividing lane down the middle. There's a lot. You need a lot of space. This is the National Dai building. As you can see, it's missing a big chunk of it over here, which is going to be basically identical to this chunk here. So the reason I haven't copied and pasted it over yet is because I want to finish building all the surrounding area and then copy and paste it in one go as a mirror image from like the middle of the building. If you haven't, I'd recommend checking out some of my building progress on this particular building in my other videos, because I go into a lot more depth looking at this building and how it looks in real life and stuff like that, comparing it to photos. But here I'll just give you a quick look. It's, again, the big government building in Japan. It's got this really cool main hall and stuff in it. A lot of it I've tried to make really accurate, but because it's Minecraft I had to space it out kind of weirdly and it didn't all fit. But I tried really hard, actually, both on interiors and exteriors of this building to make it really accurate. And because of that, the scale of this building is kind of off. It's at least like a third too big compared to how it should be in real life, just because I tried to get the proportion of these windows in particular to be realistic. Oh no, something's off about this block there. There we go. So yeah, it is a bit too big, but I still wanted it to be in the city. I still wanted it to look nice. So I spent a long time adding these gardens and these parking lots, and just this was again a huge amount of space, which normally if you're just building from your imagination you might not have really thought of using for a build like this. But in real life a lot of places have really huge plazas and stuff like this, and trying to get them to look not boring in Minecraft is a lot of hard work. So I spent a lot of time with this garden here making the dirt and the grass look really organic and mixing in all of this different dirt, trying to get all these really big trees in here. A lot of landscaping and stuff like that, really. If you do look at the National Dai building, and it's actually spelled Diet building, oddly enough, But if you look at photos of it in real life or on Google Earth, you'll see that a lot of the surrounding area does look really similar to what I've built here. I've been working on these other buildings around it, again trying to be really meticulous and close to how they are in real life, like these side buildings here, all the stuff around it. It's going to be a lot more work still, but this is one of my favorite parts of the city, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it fully constructed and finished, and I think it's turning out pretty well indeed. So there we go, there's the back of the building here. I don't think there's anything else I really need to show you guys at the moment, so I might actually finish the video around here. So basically that is where I am up to. There's still a lot of like little details, little hidden parts of the city, lots of stuff that I haven't gone into, and other buildings that are work in progresses and stuff like that that I would ideally love to show you, but I think I'm going to work on them a little bit more before I really do, because this video again has gotten really long. I've been filming for well over an hour now. So yeah, that is my Tokyo inspired Minecraft city as of the beginning of 2021. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked checking out the city. If you do want a copy of this map, let me know, because if there's enough pressure in the comments, I'll probably release it early. But at the moment, I still feel like I want to work on it a bit more before I do, just to really help the city come together, have its own stronger identity, and feel more cohesive. But yeah, I wanted to really detail where I'm at with it before I change it up quite a bit, because I definitely will in in the near future. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, do be sure to leave some comments and stuff like that below, because I love responding to you guys as always. So yeah, that is it for this video, guys. See you in the next one. But till then, peace out, and yeah, have fun playing Minecraft and all that cool stuff. Bye.